Hello and welcome to another episode of Revolution Radio. You have Tanya and
Hi, this is Jay,
that's the enthusiasm I
and
love.
we have a guest today.
We do have a guest today.
We have Lisa from Bleeding, Kansas. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Not a problem, not a problem. We actually are so excited that you were able to call in and to talk about your organization because and Jay and I talked about it. We don't feel very many people know exactly what it is you guys do. And when we've been promoting you over the couple of weeks and posting about how you would be on the show, a lot of people asked if you were about war. And, and I think it surprised them when they would click on all the links and you're not about war, are you?
No, we're a patient advocacy group fighting over the last 6 years for medical cannabis in Kansas.
Okay. So tell us about your group. How did you guys get started?
Well, I think the reason why there's a little bit of confusion there is that I'm a history geek. That's actually history and anthropology are my first loves. And when I first got involved, I only meant to have one rally. And so I thought I would hearken to, in Kansas, we're pretty proud of our Free State history and the history of Bleeding Kansas, John Brown and all of that. And so to me, this is a civil rights issue. It's self-sovereignty. It's medical liberty. There's no greater liberty that we should have than controlling what we're allowed to put into our bodies, the medical treatment we receive, sovereignty over self. And so we had our first rally in 2014. Didn't know it would turn into 3 organizations, 9 chapters across the state, writing a bill, lobbying for a bill. Kind of turned into a whole lot more, or maybe we would have gone with a different name. But here in Kansas, for us, it harkens back to a proud history of civil rights. And to us, this is absolutely a civil rights and a human rights issue. We've moved 5 families to Colorado ourselves. We've buried good people. We just buried another grandmother a few weeks ago, a nurse who'd been with us from the beginning in 2014. And so for us, it absolutely is a human rights issue.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And your cause is for the legalization of medical marijuana, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We advocate.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, is there any, regulation that you guys push as well?
Well, we wrote the Kansas Safe Access Act, the first version several years ago. We update the language every year based on, language and policy changes that we watch going on around in the country and other states, and then also research, as research comes forward too. So it's something that we've tweaked every year. I'm actually just vision tweaking up language changes again to get this into the reviser for this next session. So, we wrote the Kansas Safe Access Act, and that's the bill. We had 24 co-sponsors last year, bipartisan, so that's really good, and I hope we can get even more support going into the next session, that we can get more people on board for our bill. So,
how many people do you need to sign on to the bill?
They don't have a set number. It's just, who wants to come on board as a co-sponsor. So, and in Kansas, we don't have the right to ballot initiative. So everything that we do has to go through the legislature. That's really been the fight in Kansas over it's been over a decade since the first bill was the medical cannabis bill was introduced in the state. It's been well over a decade, and that's why it's been so slow. Kansas is now one of 4 states left in the union with absolutely no access whatsoever. And Nebraska has the right to ballot initiative, and they're doing great guns. So I predict we'll be one of 3 left, and we will be surrounded on all sides. We will be a floating island of complete prohibition.
Do you believe that there is a little bit, at least, of leeway in Kansas as far as, we're at a point now where CBD isn't criminalized like it was, just the idea of it. And even now, I believe they allow up to like 3% THC in the CBD oil. And maybe this is a misnomer, but I'm not sure. Talking about CBD oil, doesn't that have most of the medicinal aspects?
Well, no. One thing I would ask, there's there's a lot there to unpack. So we'll start first with what's called Claire and Lola's bill, which was just passed this last session. Absolutely no THC, no cannabis products of any kind are legal in Kansas, and that bill did not change that. It's a defense bill. That's all it is an affirmative defense bill. So it says that when you're arrested in Kansas, as long as you have a doctor's note, which you have to have, I can't remember how many months it is right now, 12 to 18 months, you have to have that before you can go get products. You have to have the lab results of the product with you at the time of your arrest. And then it allows you to make a medical defense, affirmative defense, in a Kansas court. No guarantee that a judge or a jury will care, but you can make that defense. It also does nothing, obviously, the federal interstate trafficking charges are not going to be affected by that. So if patients go to Colorado and bring product back, and they can, under this to 0.5%, anything above 0.3 is the federal definition of hemp. Anything above that is cannabis. So they would face interstate trafficking charges for that. So it's an affirmative defense law. Some saw it as a baby step forward, but I have spent the last few months doing nothing but trying to rectify confusion on that bill for patients who thought that they had now got some legal right to a product, but nothing is legal in Kansas. With CBD law in Kansas, only 0% THC is legal in Kansas. No level of THC, not even matching the federal level of the definition of hemp, which is 0.3%, is legal in Kansas. So that's something that needs to be rectified this year. We need to at least bring the CBD laws up to federal level of 0.3, because that causes a lot of issues. And now that Kansas farmers are growing, it's going to cause issues for them as well. That's more processing. It'll be cheaper for them to sell it out of state than try to manufacture it here and meet that. So we'll have to, that has to be rectified. And as far as the medical value of THC or any of the other over 100 cannabinoids in the plant, they all have medicinal value, including the flavonoids, the terpenes, the trichomes. So it works in a principle that people could Google called the entourage effect. So they work together synergistically, and then they work with our endocannabinoid system in our body. We have receptors all through our body. So the medicinal value of THC is very applicable not only for chronic pain, Alzheimer's, THC in cancer. If you go to the National Health Institute's website and look up cannabinoids, over on the right side you'll see where they have research and lab results, and they will go into the different ways that cannabis kills cancer, the actual mechanisms. One of them is called apoptosis, which means it literally gets the cancer cell to commit suicide. That's the National Institute of Health, it's cancer.gov, the National Cancer Institute, under the National Institute of Health. So this is not new information to the government, to scientists, or to researchers. And, I think it's a misinformation that a lot of people have. They've heard a lot about CBD. They don't hear about THCA. They don't hear about CBN. They don't hear about any of the other, cannabinoids and their medicinal value. They don't know anything about terpenes, So there's a lot of education still that we have to do. CBD has opened the door to discussion, but, and that's why I'm so glad you're having people on to talk about this issue, because there's a lot of discussion to be had.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that there's, and there's different realms of it as well. Like another question that I had, and after this I'll stop with the I would say negative side of it, but it is something I feel like is fair to discuss. There's a lot of discussion about high levels of THC being linked to psychosis. And I understand for medical purposes, it's not as important, but recreational purposes, it definitely is. What are your thoughts on that? Is it something that you guys even have to deal with? I mean, there again, you can find any medicine on the market. So I definitely want to be clear about it. I mean, OxyContin is linked to death. I mean, there's a million medications out there that have really bad side effects and can cause other things. So it's not that used as a medicine or a treatment. I don't believe that's a huge obstacle to overcome, but I do think it warrants a little bit of discussion at least.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody who shows up and either tells you, first of all, that it's a miracle cure for everything, you can stop listening there, and that there's no concern. Stop listening. If anybody shows up and tell you that it's the devil's lettuce and it has no medical efficacy whatsoever, stop listening and walk away. The truth is always in the middle. There are valid concerns, like with any other medication, which is why it is so imperative that we have this legalized so that patients have safe and legal access, and they have access to have these discussions with their medical provider. So we can educate medical providers who weren't taught this in medical school. That's where you have to begin. They have to be educated. That's mandated in our bill. And they have to continue to get CEUs every year. Because there are, the interactions with other medicines are all beneficial. You will decrease your opioid use immediately. And most practicing medical providers in this field recommend that people decrease their opioid dosage amount immediately before they even take cannabis or even CBD hemp. It's a natural blood thinner. So if you're on Coumadin or something like that, you're probably going to want to reduce that dose of Coumadin immediately. So these are good interactions, but they're interactions that we need to know about. Other people might have to be excluded from use of certain of the cannabinoids, or restricted to very low ratios of those cannabinoids. And then, of course, certain patients may be restricted from use completely. Some people are allergic to cannabis. It is a plant, so people can have an allergy to it. So those are an absolute argument for why we must have safe and legal access so that people can work with their medical providers and have that kind of oversight and interaction and discussion as things come up. Now, with psychosis, any of your anxiety disorders or any of your mental health disorders, every practitioner in any of the now, 33 legal states, the first thing they're going to say is those people should not be on a higher THC cultivar, or as some people use the word string, that they should not be on a higher THC cultivar. None of your anxiety disorders. But the higher other cannabinoids now, the research is amazing for this as a treatment for psychosis, as a treatment for mental health issues. So it's about ratios, it's about potency, it's about, and that's the flexibility of this medicine as a treatment and how highly individualized it can be. So if somebody has tried something that's CBD only exclusive and they didn't get any benefit from it, it's very easy to understand why. The plant has to work all together, but also that may not have been the cannabinoid you needed. But there's over, 99 more to try. So that's where lack of education, and the blockade on the federal level of research is really hurting us. It's great that the states are moving forward to fund medical research on the state level, and our bill funds research on the Kansas state level. So KU Cancer Center could be doing research, Children's Mercy, others. But
and I love the fact that I just love the fact that you did bring up the potency of THC being a variable in all of that, because that is huge. I think that there's a large number of people who try to self-treat, and they're stuck having to have themselves as a reference or their friends, because as you said, and it's not researched like it should. You can't go to a doctor and discuss it, and for the most part, places like Colorado and anywhere else where you can get marijuana, it is a very high potency. In fact, in some manners for amateur users or somebody who doesn't do it at all, it can be a little bit of a dangerous level of potency on a lot of it. And so, yeah, I love that you brought that up, as it's 100% true.
Well, and it's highly individualized. So what one person might need, another one won't. One of my friends who runs a cannabis company, you can look it up, it's called Moxie Meds. She's a fantastic chemist, and she's a genius. You know how they say some people talk in $5 words? She talks in $50 words. I need a thesaurus handy whenever I speak with her. She's absolutely genius. But she started in treating seizure patients with my friend Steve, who owns Harborside, the world's largest dispensary in Oakland. She moved into women's health, which, again, gender differences. There are gender differences, and those have to be included and researched. Cannabis impacts men and women differently. Dr. Michelle Ross and Jessica Peters are the only two I know in the country doing research on women's health issues in cannabis right now. But she shared with me that she had an endometriosis patient, a 90-year-old nun, and the word for cannabis and dosing, right? They have some dosing parameters from Canada and other places, but it is always start low and go slow. And people have the wrong idea that if they just take huge amounts and huge percentages of potency, that somehow that equals increased benefit. And actually, a lot of the times it's the exact opposite. Low doses. So it's start low and go slow is the mantra. But she was treating this 90-year-old nurse, and the nurse was going to quit the program because she wasn't seeing any benefit. And Jessica said, well, just stick with it because, you know, we tritate up, but it's, you know, we go a little at a time. We're trying to find that therapeutic window. And but we want to go slow. And she told me, Lisa, that 90-year-old nun ended up on a level of THC that would have the rest of us experienced users on the floor.
Oh,
but
wow.
That's what her body required. And she had no psychoactivity. It didn't make her high at all.
Wow.
And you'll see that, too, with a lot of long-term users. The psychoactivity falls off after a while because you build tolerance. So the levels that they can function on with no impairment whatsoever, very different from a new user. Any new or experienced user especially has to start off at very low doses. And sometimes, like Dr. Justin Sulak, and you can look him up on healer.com, he's a wonderful integrative physician out of Maine who's been treating patients with cannabis for a very long time. And he'll get people in who were recreational users and now they need for medical. And the first thing he'll do is take them down in how much they're using. It's not necessarily a therapeutic dose. Or maybe he'll have them stop using it all for a while and reset the system and then start low and go slow again to find that therapeutic window. So these are all things that are, you know, we have researchers and scientists that are working on this. We have physicians who know this knowledge. But we really need the federal blockade to stop, and we need it to come off the controlled substances list so that we can really go forward. I don't know how well aware of the history you guys are, but the American Medical Association back in 1937 was completely against cannabis being taken away as a medicine. It had been part of our American pharmacopoeia for over 100 years. So, but by 1942, that was the last year doctors could prescribe it. So, we've been without this medicine for a while. We've lost a lot of knowledge, but the knowledge is coming back in great guns now. I mean, it's global. Israel leads the world in research, but you know, Spain, Netherlands, Germany, Canada, Mexico is starting research now because of their medical cannabis program, and the South Americas. So Australia, so the research is catching back up now, and it's taking us to even more new and exciting places than we knew before. But America's lagging behind. It's very sad.
Yeah, no, I mean it did kind of get us because of out banning it, and one could argue due to race and big business is the reason why. And the one question I did want to ask you too. Do you notice that there is a little bit more difficult to deal with what you're trying to push when you have somewhere like Colorado being so close, is, namely a lot of the shops that they have and things like that when regarding cannabis, does it kind of give you a bad name, or does it help?
Well, I would say it depends on who I'm talking to, right? A lot of Kansans are very well aware of, because now we have Missouri and Oklahoma as well. So depending on what border Kansans are living to, they're seeing the benefit and the freedom in states around them. So the people are very frustrated. Kansas has had a huge revenue issue for a while. A lot of our traditional industries are falling by the wayside. We need new forms of industry and employment, and they're very frustrated because they see that is a very real thing happening in these other states. Other people, though, Colorado, when they first rolled out, didn't really have the regulation in place. Regulation and forming these kind of policies, now we have it down to kind of a science, but when they first started out, not really. And so there were mistakes made, and they went in and changed policies and caught those up to meet the needs. But we got a lot of blowback from that,
Well, and
but
I
we
guess I should have been.
we learned from those things and knew that we weren't going to replicate that in Kansas policy.
Yeah, and I should have been a little bit more specific. I meant as far as personal use, because as you were discussing, I think you made a lot of valid points when you discussed dosing and things of that nature. And I think we all at least know one person who comes back from, like, Colorado, and they have cartridges or dabs, and their name is, oh my God, tell me this isn't happening, oh my God, that just horrible strains that of high potency, and it's fine for experienced users, but that aspect, I should have been more clear. Does that affect what you're doing?
Oh, yes. We hear all the horror stories, and all we can do is say we can only address those by best policy, and everything comes down to education. Again, if we're able to have discussions about this in the public, and they can go to medical providers, or you do things that, so you can educate the public about these things. That's what's key. They have to learn that you're not going to want to start off at the high end of the spectrum if you're a new user, for any reason. And so that's education.
And
so much of it is education. Impairment, teaching patients the impairment window for each delivery system. It's highly different. The impairment window for edibles is very different from, inhalation or sublingual. And those kind of things. So it's teaching patients those kind of things that promote public health and safety, but also keep the patient safe. So it's all education.
Yeah, and a completely different experience too, depending on what you're, how you are ingesting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going forward and trying to push this as far as you can, what is probably the biggest obstacle in your way as far as educating the public, and who are some of the biggest groups that are pushing back against you?
Law enforcement. That's one of the largest groups that lobby against us. Those making money, other individuals who make money off of forced court treatment programs. Not everybody who got busted with cannabis needs a treatment program, but that's what exists under the law right now. So there are people who are making money off that. That's an industry, and people who are making money off status quo. That's what, basically it. Those who are making money are benefiting off prohibition. So Kansas is one of 6 states in the nation that law enforcement can take your property and never charge you with a crime. And those poor people cannot go jump through the million hoops and the expense that's tied to it to get their property back. So, and we've not even had good accountability of that in recent years, and you can Google this as well. Kansas got in trouble by an audit of our asset forfeiture and seizure system, where we really weren't having good accountability of the money. Now, this last year, a bill was passed that's supposed to lead to more accountability, but that's been a lot of money generated, and that nobody's really been looking at for a long time. And there is money made in prohibition. So you have those people. You have people who have, you know, just really misinformed, stigmatized, bad information. They're still coming from that era that they come from. Their religious beliefs might be tied in, whatever. You have people that this industry directly competes with. So big pharma, alcohol, tobacco. Those people don't really like to see it come in the door unless they can figure out how they're going to get their piece of the pie, which a lot of them now are. So there's a lot of people like that.
So
and a lot of people don't like our model and our bill because our model is not about making rich white guys richer.
Right.
It's about benefiting Kansas and especially the most disenfranchised communities, the communities that are truly suffering right now. So we looked at rural revitalization. We looked at the Kansas rural suicide rate now is through the roof, one of the highest ones in the nation. Our rural communities are suffering really terribly. And obviously our inner city areas have been highly impacted by prohibition. Just the enforcement of prohibition laws is, definitely the arrests, the conviction rates and everything are highly skewed. So, we're looking at addressing those issues. We're looking at funding public health and mental health and substance abuse programs and mental health and substance abuse prevention for K through 12. So we're not looking at, making individual people richer. We're trying to look at what would actually benefit our state in those areas that have been most critically underfunded and those communities that are really suffering.
Yeah, no, and I was really surprised, but it makes complete sense when you talked about rehabilitation centers that would be against it. Another avenue that I was really shocked to find out that is against legalization is gangs and drug dealers themselves, because that comes into there. You don't think about it when you're debating it with somebody, and I think if more people knew that directly hurts what we consider criminals, maybe they would sign on to it a little bit quicker.
Yeah, if you want to defeat black market, that was proven. Mexico took a real hit when America started flipping state by state by state.
Mm-hmm.
Black market takes a huge hit, and that's part of a public health concern, because when people point to cannabis and go, oh, it's a gateway drug, that has been disproven time and time again. It's not scientific. What is the gateway is black market. If kids are out on the street or someone's out on the street and they go to a drug dealer, that's a salesperson. And if you've ever worked in sales, your job is to upsell. And your job is to get someone, especially on something highly addictive, that's going to get people to come back. And so you might only go to buy cannabis, but they're going to get you involved in something else. So it's that exposure to black market that's really the gateway. As far as substances that are gateway, we know from research alcohol and tobacco are really the true gateways. That's what most kids start with, a cigarette or a beer. So it's that black market exposure. So to keep kids safe, the newest studies, my friend Dr. David Nathan was just speaking at the U.S. Judiciary Committee last week, and the new research out from JAMA Pediatrics published last week showed that no, medical marijuana cannabis laws do not raise use rates, and in fact, even under adult use rates go down, and that's because we're drying up that black market and minimizing that exposure to somebody who is going to try to get them on something very dangerous, very addictive, and deadly. And it's such a time of crisis that we're in now with meth and opioids. That is something worth discussing as a community, looking at the real data. What does the data say? That's what we always go. We're data-driven. Instead of just assuming, what does the data reflect?
Right. Yeah. And even, it's not always as sinister as even that. The black market is not consistent. And I know in college when we were buying, one of the people that we were buying off of, they didn't have any, but they had Adderall, and one of my
Yes.
friends got hooked on Adderall because,
Oh,
you know,
gosh.
it was what they had, and the rest, the other of us were like, nah, we're good. But 1 out of 4 people, and yeah, and I don't think the guy that we were getting it from, I don't think he was, a villain, so to speak. That's what he was doing, and that's what he had. And it does open that up more when it is regulated and when it's controlled. And you can go to the same store. They have the same, cannabis that you're using, and it's the same. It's always going to be there or something similar. It definitely is a lot more safer. And
Right.
on that
And
too,
the product is safer because under regulation, especially under our regulation, we're talking about patients with usually suppressed immune systems. So you have to be exceedingly careful.
Yeah.
This is organic product that is tested. There's no mold. There's no pesticides, no heavy metals, no adulterants or contaminants of any kind. And even with the kind of solvents that are used to make products, we regulate that because you don't need solvent residue, toxic solvent residue for patients who are already battling an illness. So it's safer product, even just that way. And it's not cut with something, it's not laced with something.
Exactly.
It's really, really scary.
and I want to be clear on this too, because it's something that I definitely agree to, and something I sign on with. You guys don't believe that only 1 or 2 groups of people are allowed to sell, correct? Like if you, I can't remember what state it was, but there was a state in the Midwest area that they didn't pass the legalization of it because there was basically a conglomerate that was going to be the only ones selling.
Ugh.
Yeah, and that's something you guys are like. It's a free market, essentially, correct? As long as you pass,
Oh, yes.
What you need to.
Yeah. Ours is an agricultural cooperative model. And it's very unique because, again, there's lots of access effects. First of all, access affects so many things. You don't get that 25% reduction in opioid overdose deaths if you in any way restrict access. If you restrict patient supply or access at any point, you're going to get people pushed back to black market. And access gets restricted by price, it gets restricted by geography, and then also the market itself tends to marginalize and only promote certain cannabinoids. Some patients need to have some of those more marginalized cannabinoids for their treatment protocol. So access is key for so many reasons, not just because it's best for patients, but it's best for defeating black market.
Well,
So that is key that we don't stranglehold supply. It's key that we don't stranglehold access. But our ag co-op model we looked at too, what we really wanted to do is not just look at this will bring a whole new industry, lots of new jobs, and the tax revenue will be there. But we wanted to look past that. That's kind of just a really small box to look in at how you can benefit a state economically. So we wanted to look at an economic model that's already well established within a rural agricultural state. Everybody in Kansas is pretty much familiar with what an ag co-op is, or they know someone who does. And what's so great about that, especially in a tier integrated industry like cannabis, is that we have seen across the nation small towns, and you can Google that too. Google small towns saved by cannabis industry. Towns saved from the verge of extinction, where they were literally getting ready to say, we're not even a town anymore. We have no money. And so that a whole small town could come together and build an ag co-op and begin to grow this. Farmers here in Kansas know how to grow stuff. They'll be phenomenal at it. But what they can also do is bring into that ag co-op model, let's say people from an urban core. They're not going to be able to grow, but they can do manufacturing and they can do the dispensary part of it. So they work together. So these two communities who are suffering, interurban and rural, can partnership. And what's so great about the model is that anything past base expenses, and that includes reinvestment back into the business, and all of your baseline, that always includes your gross margin. But that can be voted by that ag co-op into free services for patients, like let's say free medicine for palliative care for people on hospice, medicine on a sliding scale. But for a small town, healthcare, rural health is a real issue. So they could vote to bring in services for the whole small town, not even just their members, but for the whole town. They could bring in a traveling nurse practitioner once a quarter. They could bring in a breast cancer screening bus. They could bring in, have medical device exchange, nutritional support. So we were trying to really look at a very old school economic model that could be used in a progressive new way to really help Kansas where we're suffering the most, where we have been so critically underfunded in public health and mental health and substance abuse programs in Kansas and in the K through 12 have suffered terribly. They fund everything else, but when it comes to sick people, no one's really been looking out for them. And substance abuse is a public health issue. We've highly criminalized it in Kansas, and that's to our detriment. It leads to more deaths. That study was out just last week. But when we look at that way, so we want to promote entrepreneurship, and we want to grow Kansas jobs and industry, but was to look at how can we maximize that positive impact.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that is fantastic. Something that should be known more. And I was gonna ask you too on that note. Those bills that when they will introduce legalization or medical or recreational. Do you think that sometimes they will stick on those? We'll pass it, but only certain people can distribute it, certain people can grow it. Do you think they do that purposely to tank the bill? Because I know I'm a small business owner, and I own a vape shop. I would vote against it because I know that someone could just move in next to me and they would put me out.
I think so, and I mean also too, we saw a bill come out, 2 bills come out last session, which have over 40 pages of pork in their pages, tax exemptions and tax breaks for the weirdest things you've ever heard of, including an airport in Wichita. I think a lot of people are looking to benefit themselves and their buddies and the people who donate to their campaigns. Mm-hmm. And they're not really thinking about what's best for Kansas. And that's really unfortunate because if we in Kansas, a lot of politics at a lot of different times have looked to the state to lead the way. We've led the way a lot of times. And this would be a real opportunity for us to have a progressive model, again, that's very ancient, it's old school, but to show how we could do something that could benefit so many and build community, rather than looking to enrich those who are already rich. So a lot of people come at this angle with their own agenda. And that's something that the people need to be educated on and to help guard against. The people have to speak. They need to really look at these bills and, see what they really think, what they believe is going to be best for the state, and then to get loud about that, to be vocal, to get involved. It's really needed.
I think, what you guys have done and what your plan is just a phenomenal area for people to start off from, and something that they can use themselves when educating themselves and then when educating others. Here in Kansas, it's like you said, it's perfect. It's that old school, solution is the best solution, and it's the way to get it done in Kansas. Like, we're unfortunately not that progressive, but it is a long way to make a lot of progressive things happen. Healthcare 100% is a huge problem here, and to loop that in with this, with the legalization of medical cannabis is wonderful. I think that's fantastic, and that.
Well, the biggest thing that we always hear. I'm a Republican, but I'm a moderate. I'm an Eisenhower Lincoln girl, so I always say I'm what the party used to be, and I'm just too stubborn to quit. I'm the thorn in their side that stays there to throw my Eisenhower memes out all the time and remind them. But, the biggest thing we hear is, well, we don't want to carry the load for everybody. People need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and they need to, carry their own weight. Well, people need a vehicle to do that by. So why not use this very successful model that's been used throughout Kansas history and agricultural history forever, and allow communities and individuals that exact thing. Give them a model that they can use. Our fees are going to be some of the lowest in the nation, but the reason for that is we took them straight from the alcohol model that's current in alcohol law right now, which lets the little guy get in at a small production rate and paying a small amount, and then as he grows his business, he works his way right on up the ladder. So we want to promote entrepreneurship. We want to give these communities a way to raise themselves up and to build community again. We're so disconnected in our social media world. People say we're more connected than ever, but we're actually very disconnected in a lot of ways. So this, allows those very things that most conservatives are always saying about people need to do for themselves. Great, well, let's give them a model to do that.
No, you're right, and yeah, a great statement of, people need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. But when you don't have any boots, you're just pulling up straps.
Right. Let's give them some boots.
Yeah, I love that, and I think especially here in Kansas, we love our communities. We all want to do better. And all around the world, honestly, but I don't think that there is a large group of people who just doesn't want to do for themselves. They just don't know how. And I think that this is wonderful. I think it's something that I can't imagine how you'll face many more obstacles the more that people understand your model, because it's wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, greed and avarice are true foes. There's a lot of people who really, the very people who blocked our bill from getting a hearing for years and years, people who only met this, even when us three moms, us founding mothers, were up there pushing our babies around in strollers, would have to crack their jokes and be very, degrading about the whole issue. Those are the people now looking to profit. And that's very disheartening to me. And I hope that it would be disheartening to others. So they're like, no, we don't want, you're the people who've been stopping it this whole time. Now you don't get to make a buck off of people's suffering. So I hope that people will get on board for it. I believe in the model. I really do. I believe in our bill.
And on that note, I do think, you're going to have people. I said, I'm in the vaping industry, and Philip Morris tried to release vaping equipment, and it was shunned. It's people are far more intelligent than what I think big business gives them credit for. But we definitely thank you.
I'm all for free business. I love entrepreneurship and I love small business, and I want to promote entrepreneurship. But corporatism is and corporate greed. That's a different world, and I don't like that world. So
completely agree.
And we definitely thank you for the time. You're gonna have to give us a call back, especially when we get closer to any times that you need a push for ballots, a push for, which, as you said, we can't really do that, but just any time to educate the public. We'd definitely love to have you back on.
Oh, thank you. Please tell people to go to their local forums with their legislators and lawmakers, hold their feet to the fire, get them to say out loud where they stand on this issue. Please make your voice heard where you stand on this issue. Please vote appropriately. Please vote appropriately and help us out at the Capitol.
Oh, very much. And where can people find out information about Bleeding Kansas?
Facebook and Twitter. Bleeding Kansas Advocates on Twitter. It's at Bleeding and the number 4 Kansas. I have a lot of research there. Bleeding Kansas Advocates on Facebook. And then bksadvocates.org is our website, which will be under reconstruction here pretty soon. So those are some ways to get a hold of us for sure.
Awesome, great. And again, thank you so much for calling. And guys,
sure.
Definitely, I was really impressed with the fact that there's so much transparency. And
there is.
If you're listening,
I really feel like we should have you call back again in a couple of weeks, Lisa, and
thank you.
Let's keep this going, because I feel like, especially the education on it, and if you're going to be smoking marijuana, you need to know all the facts, and I feel like there's a lot of people that do not know that.
And all of the listeners, I implore you to go check it out. And Lisa is really good about getting back with you. I thought that in itself is very impressive. But check out their website. Check them out on Facebook and Twitter and all those options as well. So thank you again so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Okay. All right. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Alrighty, and that was Lisa from Bleeding Hearts. Oh my goodness. I have no idea about a lot of the laws. Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree. Here's the thing that the listeners may not know, because we're doing the show in almost a two-part manner. Because
Almost.
Now...
It's time to take a break.
Yeah, for what, a minute or two? And then
we're going to take a quick break.
You're going to Skype.
And when we come back, we're going to have Cody on, who's always ready to party. And we have a couple of new stories.
I think, is Monica going to be on or no? No,
Monica cannot make it today.
But here's the interesting thing, and I would do this if we were live. I would Facebook Live my journey, because I'm moving from this studio
He's going
to my home
another studio. So yeah.
So anyway, guys, we're gonna take a break, and for all of you listeners, it'll only seem like a second, but for us, it'll be about an hour. So
see you guys in a second. And that was our quick break here on Revolution Radio. A little bit of magic behind our scenes. And we are back, and I am still Tanya, and I'm here with Jay and Cody. Hello, boys.
Hey.
Hey, what's up?
So, isn't this going on YouTube? Do they even know we had a break?
Yeah, I was explaining. I was like, for them, like, if we were live, I would have, like, Facebook Lived my journey between studios.
Right.
Because that would have been funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, for them, it's just like, oh, it's been a second.
Right.
Jay's magical. He can go between studios in a second.
Right.
You run fast, big guy.
So yeah, it was a great interview with Lisa from Bleeding Kansas. I think I she had some really interesting aspects about her model.
I was impressed, and I feel like I learned a lot more than what I did going in, even after, like, learning about her and learning about her organization. I was really impressed by the fact that you, Jay, you were playing devil's advocate on both sides of, should marijuana be legalized and shouldn't it? And I was really impressed because she was right there with you. I mean, she knew both what was good and what was bad about it. I was really impressed with the interview. I can't wait to have her back on.
Well, a lot of the negative talking points that I tried to hit, and I purposely did only because I thought, look, I'm on her team,
Yes.
but if she can't out debate me on these, then that's not a very strong figurehead. And she did wonderful, and I think, not only did she secede some of not of her statements, but statements that are made by marijuana, advocates, namely the high levels of THC being dangerous and potentially causing psychosis and things like that. Instead of ignoring them or saying it's fake news, whatever, she did agree that that's, one of those things that definitely needs to be addressed, and the use of it. And yeah, I thought it was really good. The whole, ADCO model, I think, is wonderful. That's definitely the only way it's going to happen in Kansas.
Especially if it can, like, help build a community and reinforce and make it stronger. I think that's an amazing model, and I really hope a lot of our listeners go and, like, learn more and get the information, and they too start helping out with, we should get this legalized in Kansas. I do.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic way to do it. So anyway, we did a great job Friday catching up with a lot of the news. So we don't have a lot to go into today, but I do want to get a few of the news stories that happened out of the way. And one specific that came up on my radar, Donald Trump,
your friend,
orangutan in chief. He
the racist chief.
The racist, yeah.
Right.
And you guys made fun of me for being racist. Do you know what I mean? At least I didn't tweet it.
But we had a really strong point.
We make fun of you for a lot of things, Tanya. But I'm going to say, real quick, a fan pointed out, Your family really has the crazy eyes. You know that?
We do.
You and you do.
And have you noticed most of my cousins, they have bug eyes too. We have big eyes.
Yeah, I have.
Have you met Radio Monica yet? She's got bug eyes.
No, but I'm friends with her on Facebook, so
She got creepy ass eyes.
I know. But anyway,
you can tell a lot by people's eyes. But anyway, yeah. So
I can tell by how yours is always looking down at my crotch.
Hey, look, I only look at what I want.
Sure.
Anyway, Donald Trump tweeted out that AOC and the progressives should go back to their own country and fix them before they complain.
You mean America? We should fix
See,
America?
that's the problem, right? Like, only one of them is from a different country.
Well, none of them look American, so, it's safe to assume.
But what is
So that's what I was going to say.
What's a Mid-American look like?
The defense that people want to bring up is that, that wasn't racist. Wasn't it?
How?
So, yeah, can you guys find out how that wasn't racist?
But, I mean,
Right.
isn't this what America looks like? We are a melting pot, a mixed group of people. I mean, you don't hear me telling Cody and his, one of his millions of girlfriends, you guys should go back to your original country. You can't. She came here as a slave.
No, I don't say, hey, Cody, you need to, return your girlfriends to Epstein and then go back to Germany.
Right. Or Israel, depending which genealogy you go with, but...
That's a fair point. You do look thoroughly German, but...
I know.
But I
It's
think
the
good
con-
German. I think you're good German, not bad German.
Oh, okay. See, the internal struggle says I'm bad German.
See, I'll give you modern German, not 1940s German.
Okay, I can work with that.
It was like a big year for Germany.
Well, for one, the unkept hair. Back in the day, they styled their hair.
Yeah.
I mean, bigots, genocidal lunatics, horrible guys, but they could comb their hair really well.
They had fantastic hair for Nazis.
Well, and they looked good all the time. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't be like an unkempt Nazi.
No, definitely not.
No,
You just
they
made
were
you.
all... right. So this gets thrown out, and so I don't know, what's your retort?
So here's what I've been chewing on regarding this is, one, I don't understand how you can defend this not being racist. You look at a group of women and say, hey, go back to your own country, when they're clearly, naturally citizen. The other thing is that I hear a lot of the argument, well, no, it's more so because if they don't like how the country is being ran, then they need to go back to where they're from, which is still pretty racist. But I have a problem with this, if you don't like how the country's being ran, leave mentality. Why? The whole point of a democracy is so that we can sit down and hash it out, which I understand is hard because each side has their agenda and they just want their agenda. They don't want to see the middle ground like AOC kind of does. But I'm tired of this leave if you don't like it mentality.
Well, and it doesn't
honestly,
make sense.
No, and honestly, I feel like he's just taking these pot shots. Like, I think he understands that they're obviously not going to leave. They're obviously from here. He obviously has no room to talk because he pretty much bought his wife
From a different country, yeah.
Right, exactly. I think he understands that it's not going to do anything, but he's just doing what he can to take these pot shots. And I don't know, and that's kind of my other problem is if they need to go back, Melania needs to go back because they're both working on the same gig here. They're all citizens, even if one is from a different country as far as the congresswomen go. I don't know.
Well, okay, and see, I want to address this as well because here's the thing, and I brought it up, and of course no one had a reply, but why is it just these four women that need to go back? Why doesn't Rand Paul need to go back? He complains a lot about this country. Lindsey Graham complains a lot about this country.
They have penises.
Why don't they have to go back?
They have a penis.
You know, well, you know,
He's
you know,
iffy.
Susan Collins, and she have to go back. It's funny who has to go back, and then who's just trying to make the country better. And you know, the other argument that I have with this is, um, if you have a child, and your child is acting rambunctious, you call them out on it, right? You say, hey, cut it out, stop it. We're at a store, we're at dinner, whatever. And you do that because you love them and you want them to be a better human being, correct?
Not just
You
spank
don't
'em.
do that with your country, you'll have a horrible country.
I'm gonna spank my
Right.
fucking country.
Yeah, you know, it has to be and it's something I think conservatives lose a lot of. But the only way to progress, the only way to grow, to evolve yourself, is to be incredibly critical of yourself, and country included. And that's not something that they're good at, and that's why we are in a lot of ways that we are now. You know, I had an interesting discussion with a friend of mine who he was saying he hates Antifa, dislikes Black Lives Matter. But I asked him, I said, well, because he said, well, because white people are attacked by cops just as much and unjustly.
Yeah, that's how
And
I
I said-
picture it.
Well, it's probably true just because of numbers. But white people don't say anything about it. And I said, look, don't you think white people should complain about it? Well, yeah, I guess so. And I said, the fact that they don't. See, here's the problem. This is why Antifa and Black Lives Matter, namely Black Lives Matter, will sometimes become violent, because what the white people say, cops are good, they do no bad. Well, we can acknowledge when a cop has killed a black person and it was unjust. So what the black people are hearing is the white people saying, "Yeah, cops are good. They don't do anything wrong, even though they just unjustly killed a black man." So of course, the black people are going to say white people are racist.
Sure.
And
I get that.
it's this weird ideology that white people have of being followers of authoritarians. The police in this scenario being the authoritarian. White people acknowledge they are unjustly abused by the police, but they don't want to stand up to them. They won't do that. They don't have the backbone, the strength. If they did, though, and they just acknowledged a truth that was happening to them, they're not even being allies of black people, but just by acknowledging their own abuse, they would then become allies. And it would help a lot of racial tensions. It would help a lot of what's going on in this country. And it's that same manner, though, of tradition. And that tradition, it just fucks us over time and time again.
Hey, listen, I've always said from the get-go, fuck tradition, do your own thing. I've never been a fan of tradition, and I think, I'm being proven right more and more. I was talking more, like having a white dress at a wedding, but it's a little different, but the point still stands.
I thought you were more talking about a man and woman should lay together.
Oh, no, I was actually talking about, 23-year-old man can't lay with a 13-year-old girl, but...
Oh my god.
Look, you're just a pervert. You'll take it however you can get.
Listen, I'll take what I can get.
Man, woman,
Dog.
Beast.
14, 43, whatever.
You know me.
He's never down to play Cody's Got a Ball.
2 if you're lucky. 3 for the special occasion.
Depends how confident you are at that time.
Right, how many I can pop out.
No, and the other kind of, I don't know, big news or whatever, that we've kind of seen popping up here and there is the,
Yep.
wait 1 second here, I'm pulling it up.
Okay, I was wondering, are you good?
No, it's not even that big of a deal. I just wanted to see what You guys just, I want to be specific on this. Kellyanne Conway was told to ignore a subpoena by Trump. She said Trump told her she was subpoenaed to testify about the Trump administration, and Trump said, no, just ignore it, don't do it.
Nice.
But I mean,
So what do you guys think about that?
I feel like that is such bullshit because you were subpoenaed. It's a law. You know what I mean? You were told to do this. It is the law to do this. Nah, fuck that. I'm above the law. And that's how I take it, is that he feels like he is above the law.
It's also against the law to buy and sell kids, but, I mean, Epstein got away with it, and Clinton, Trump. Just saying.
Obama, yeah, no, you are right. I think it's one of those things, though, too, that it's funny how what's one of the cornerstones of the Republicans, and namely Trump's people? What's one of those things they say they stand for?
Second Amendment.
Okay,
Family,
and
children, white
Freedom
America.
of speech.
okay, you're all wrapping one thing up for sure. You're just doing it bit by bit.
The
A lot of them, yeah, a lot of them are avid constitutionalists.
Yeah.
And rule of law, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they said we don't have any rule of law, we've got nothing. But it's interesting how many times that group will go against rule of law and or the Constitution. In fact, possibly more than the Democrats do.
Yeah.
And this is just another one of those cases where Trump can say, oh, you're part of the team, don't worry about it. Subpoenas, that's for the peasants. We don't deal with that here.
Right.
And he'll be fine.
That's for the people who aren't white and rich.
And he's right in a lot of ways. We really are, if you are a certain status in this country, you are above the law.
Yeah. Or if you could just hide from the law well enough.
If you're white enough.
Or, one of the things that gets me about the tragedy that's happening at the border is people keep saying that they're illegal.
Right.
Oh my god.
But when you break it to someone in a debate, like, no, actually, what we're doing by detaining them is unconstitutional and unlawful.
Right.
They will immediately deny that. And, I think I posted it on Facebook, and I've broken it down as far down as I can to show people exactly where it is in the Constitution. It's Article 6, Section 2, if you want to take a look at it. And then even further, if you want to break it down on the treatment of the refugees and the lawfulness of the refugees, it's Article 31 of the 1967 Protocol on Refugees, where it states that that asylum seekers shall receive no punishment for unauthorized entry into our country. That's our Constitution. That's our laws. We are breaking our own laws. We are being unconstitutional. And a certain side of our country says, oh, no, they're breaking the laws. You can show them the law. You can show them in the Constitution. International treaties are given the weight of law. That's in Section 6, or Article 6, Section 2. But, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, not to mention, the ones coming across the border are seeking asylum, which is completely legal.
That's the argument, right? But even,
and it's kind of...
Oh, go ahead.
Go. I was just going to say it's kind of fucked up that these people are coming here completely legally, mind you, or trying to, at least they're seeking asylum, and we're treating them like animals. Like, they complain about the border and people getting across and all this stuff, but then we build these camps, it started with, illegal immigrants. They would be caught and detained there and sent back. But now we're just picking people up coming across the border, like looking for asylum.
We're just
So what? Yeah. You invite us over for asylum legally, but then when we try to come, you throw us in jail. You separate our kids. Our kids either die in your possession or they get lost somehow. It's fucked.
No, I mean, we've had since September. There has been 12 people that have died in our custody at the border. That's not normal.
Well, and I think you should be more specific that this is the southern border. The northern border is still completely open, and they're taking in about 200 to 300 people a day.
Canadians now? The snow Mexicans?
Well, and it's not just the snow Mexicans. I mean, we are still getting like 30 to 40 Russian immigrants daily.
Right, and I was gonna say, though, to be fair to your point, there's a ton of weed coming from the northern border from Canada.
Well, and most of the heroin that is being...
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, for example, I guess I could have just said drugs, but there's a ton of it going through the northern border, so... And listen, if us three schmucks that do a show out of a dungeon, if we know about it, you're telling me that the government doesn't know about it, enforcement doesn't know about it? I mean, come on. So why aren't we doing anything about that? Why aren't we dealing with white people who do it?
I can tell you, yeah, and that was just it, because they look like the typical American.
Right.
Quote unquote. I mean, I really would be curious what the typical American looks like, because I don't think it looks like they think it does.
What would you say it looks like?
I don't know. I mean, obviously fat.
Absolutely. We're the heavy country.
Yes, yeah, we're a very stoutish kind of build. Wide shoulders, good for fighting or tilling the field, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I definitely wouldn't say white. Kind of a darker hue. Not. I would say not an ethnic exactly.
What about like a Cheeto color?
Darker. What?
Like an orangey tint.
I don't know about that. I'd be our president, but
that sounds.
He's the average American.
But yeah, a little on the darker side. I don't know though. I can't. I mean, of course, then I don't know. If you think about it, probably most Americans are pale and.
So basically, you're saying Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, that's what I look like. So.
Oh yeah, totally. I can get behind that. Literally.
Exactly.
I would.
Exactly. No, but yeah, you are right. They don't seem to care about the northern border, even though it is as much, if not a bigger problem. I mean, I think we've talked about it multiple times. The biggest terrorist attack on our country happened September 11th, 2001, and the perpetrators in majority came from Saudi Arabia, which we love Saudi Arabia.
Woo-hoo,
we give them tons of money. Who they give that money, they buy guns and they give it to terrorists, and they came here through Canada.
Right.
But here's the problem. Your alt-right and your hardcore conservatives aren't going to hate them. And this is one of those things I've broken down before. There's something called the 14 steps of genocide.
Yeah.
And it proposes the way that one person can change many into a genocidal group. And, that's one of the things, is you dehumanize them. They have to look different, so you have to attack those features. Even if you do it in a very faux manner, what did Steve King say? The Mexicans have calves the size of watermelons from trucking weed across the border.
That's right.
I mean,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know. Just It's disgusting. But and then you break them down, and you know they don't deserve this, and they don't deserve that. That they shouldn't have hygiene. They shouldn't have a bed to sleep on. Then you turn it around and you blame it on them. And all while other countries, and including people here in this country, are saying, well, but we said in our Constitution that what they're doing is legal, and this shouldn't be a problem. But this other group has blinders on that are so thick that they don't even see the forest for the trees. They don't see the truth right there in front of them. I mean, black and white, you can't. But it's just like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. You can't really misinterpret that too many ways.
Right.
You know, and this is just the same manner. It is our written law. But yeah, I don't know. It's messed up, and it does seem that the party that portrays itself as a law-abiding, strict, party of ethics and morality and Christianity and blah 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 are the ones that just want to abuse that as much as possible.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. Think about it. They caught a submarine off the coast a few weeks ago full of heroin. And the headline was, Coast Guard catches heroin on a submarine ship. Toughens security at southern border. Well, it wasn't.
What was the end of that?
They tightened security at the southern border.
Oh, yeah. You mean in the desert where there's no subs? I'm actually surprised that the headline just didn't say, submarine caught with, tons of heroin on it. Blacks suspected.
I mean, it would have been better if it would have been like...
That would be.
What, Samir Al-Ilhan was caught with heroin. Pedro's going to jail for it. You can't trust them people.
Submarine found with tons of heroin on it claims it wasn't his.
That's funny. So, okay, I got a couple questions, a couple things that it's not news related, but you guys' opinion related, and one of them is personal.
Okay.
And I have a very strong feeling that the both of you are gonna walk away from this not as impressed with me as maybe once were.
What opinion is this? Because I thought you were gonna wait until Monica was here, because you like to argue with Monica.
No, this isn't. No, this is more. Yeah, I don't even know if she probably would care about this too, because she's a psycho like the rest of you. But okay, so Friday after the show, I came home,
masturbated,
and ate, and my wife was like, "Hey, you should drive us to Brahms to go get ice cream." And I don't want to go. Didn't want to do it. I was like, "Fine, let's go." Right? Drove us to Brahms. Got ice cream. No problem. On the way back, right? And I'm heading down a pretty major road by my house, and a cat darts right into my back tire, and without a doubt I hit it. My wife immediately goes, "Oh my God, you killed a cat." Oh my, and I mean, emotional and saying stuff, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, "Shut the fuck up. We have a 6-year-old in the back. Do you need to traumatize the kid with this?" And of course, being a female, she wasn't thinking. I'm kidding.
Fuck.
But, and then proceeded to call me heartless because she's like, "We should go back and check on it." And I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I, a vet? Like, plus we have ice cream. It's melting.
Because you know what the worst situation there is? You go back and it's not dead. And you have to finish it.
Or you have to take it to the hospital or the animal hospital. You're doing stuff. You're now involved.
Can I leave it there before I took it somewhere?
Yeah, so, when I got home, my wife shunned the shit out of me and just went into the room and was, I can't believe how heartless you are, because I really didn't care.
Wow.
And I'll be honest, I don't care.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. But also, did you remind her this wouldn't have happened if she didn't want ice?
Oh, I did. I totally did. I brought that up numerous times. I didn't even want to go.
Right. And see, that was probably something telling you, hey man, if you go, something bad's gonna happen. And
Right?
it did.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that because I'm not that skeptic, but yes, I mean...
Yeah, no, I'm just, more ammo to throw out.
So what would you guys have done in that scenario?
I would have
With
gone
the
a little
wife
faster.
or with the cat?
With the
I
whole
would've
thing.
sped
Like,
up.
Tanya, what would you do?
I would have sped up.
You're an animal lover.
I am an animal lover. And I always think it's sad when an animal gets hit or you see a dead body. We went to Branson a few weeks ago and some of us were playing Carcass, where when you drive by a dead body, you post the body. And that way people can tell where you're at on the highway. And I had posted, looks like a coyote, and somebody goes, no, that's a raccoon. And by the fifth families, this guy goes, well, I just pulled over. You're all wrong. It was a fox. I mean, it's sick, it's twisted. It was a fox, yeah. This thing was fucking huge, too.
Yeah, I thought you said box, too.
No, it was a fox.
They could have had an Amazon smile on it.
Although I do know someone who hit a box that was full of puppies. That was a mess. But when it comes to stuff like that, I do love animals. Don't get me wrong. And I think animals are great. But if you're going to dart in front of my vehicle, I'm going to speed up and hit you faster because that'll do less damage to my vehicle and less damage to my kids. Because by God, it's scary to hit an animal and you want that fucker dead. Like, I want you dead. I don't want... I know. And in every scenario with insurance companies, what they tell you to do is hit it. Just fucking hit it.
Yeah. Just keep going straight. Don't swerve.
That's right.
Yeah, wow. I mean...
But yeah, by the way, how does it feel? You're a huge animal lover. Your insanely weird cat is always, like, giving me looks.
That cat's gonna get you.
Yeah, you, when it actually comes down to brass tacks, you're on the side of a person who doesn't really like animals.
Yeah.
Gotta feel the cold. Cody, what do you...
I gotta be honest. I would probably handle it like you did. Like, it'd probably go down a very similar way because I don't have kids, so I'm not worried about them being traumatized. But you know how my girlfriend is, and she's an absolute fucking maniac when it comes to animals. I mean, I swear to God, you step on a bug and she cries. It's ridiculous.
Old Ellie Mae? Yeah.
Yeah, so if I hit a cat, man, there would be a lot of tears. Probably ask me to turn around, and I'd say no. Because, honestly, not because I don't care. I'm going to feel a little bad that I hit the cat. But I wasn't kidding when I said the worst case scenario is if I go back and it's still alive. Because, one, that means either I need to find a big boulder somewhere. Or two, I need to throw this bleeding sack of flesh in my car somewhere. And I don't have blankets in there, so I'm either going to ruin a blanket that I may have, or my seats, or my trunk. Then my trunk will just stink like carcass. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Walk. If you want it at the vet so bad, walk it there.
Get to the vet so bad.
Or honestly, just hang it outside by the tail. Roll the window down and just hang it out and drive.
Oh my
I just
God.
love the image of like a half-flattened cat on a road, and people are driving by as Cody's just bludgeoning it with a rock. Go down! Close your eyes!
Actually,
I
fucking love you.
Go to the
wish I
light!
could you.
But I
It just
mean,
keeps
they
coming
tell
back.
you not to do that. Because think of all the people who have been bitten by animals that were hit, and they have rabies because they're animals, and that's why they're in the street. I mean, fucking leave them there. Let them die naturally. Don't stone them. Just let them lay there. They're going to get hit again. It's cool.
So this is my
Yeah.
argument.
And by the way, one more quick point I just want to throw out is by the time that she finally convinces me to turn around, if I turn around, it'll have been hit again already. I guarantee you.
I would tell her to go pick it up.
And then back and be like, oh wow, well these tread marks don't match my tread marks, so
Someone else is doing now.
right. No longer my problem.
I love you
No,
so
I mean, I agree, and in so many ways, I think I also heard from like my mom and my wife was probably somebody's pet,
It was a
and I'm
pet.
thinking, why do we assume it's a good cat?
I know.
Why don't we assume that it had rabies? That it was just an asshole cat with rabies out to bite people. How come that's not the scenario? Could have been.
Like people, that's its mission.
Yes, we don't know. This could be some sort of Terminator cat that just wanted to affect the world in rabies. We have no idea. We can't say for sure. The one thing I can say is I drove back by the next day, and even that night when I was looking, like in the rearview mirror when I was driving away, I didn't see it.
Oh, see, now it's just pissed.
So I don't know what happened.
It's gonna
to
get revenge on you. It's fucking pissed.
It probably means it died on the side of the road instead of in the road.
I didn't even see it on the side of the road either.
Oh, I don't know then.
It's weird. I don't know what happened to it, and
An eye opener.
it's hard to. Yeah, it's completely hard to say exactly what happened to it. But and then here's my other thing. I argue this point. Why is it I'm a cold-blooded killer? Why aren't I a form of Darwin's theory come to life? Because how long would this cat have survived? I didn't swerve. I just kept driving straight, and that thing darted into my back tire.
Yeah, there's nothing to do with that. I have a buddy that he got hit by a deer, and at first we were like, oh, so like you're driving, you hit the deer. He's like, no, like the deer hit me, and he showed me his truck, and it was a buck, so it had the antlers. Nothing from like, you know, the back door up, but the whole bed of his truck all scraped up. It ran into him. What is? I mean, killed it. He kept it, skinned it, whatever. But I mean, what are you supposed to do? It literally killed itself.
There you go. He fucking deserved it.
But that's kind of how I feel with squirrels too. Fuck squirrels. That's why. So I almost hit a squirrel the other day, actually, and I got yelled at because I didn't slow down. I didn't.
Never
adjust
slow
my
down.
course at all, and I got yelled at because, oh, you could have hit him. Right, okay, but what she will never mention is that ran to the side of the road, was good, and then ran back out before it was too late.
Yeah, and they do that all the time, too. They're weird.
Right.
Also,
And they're
I'm
stupid.
surprised you got yelled about the squirrel thing, because most people don't care. That was going to be my other argument. Why do we care about cats more than we care about, I don't know, rabbits? People hit all sorts of creatures all the time.
I don't know.
Oh,
I find
it's
this
weird.
interesting because
So,
I
we are running low on time. I did have a discussion I wanted to bring up, but we're not going to have the time, and that's fine.
Well, I want to tell you a quick story because I know you'll appreciate it, Jay. Tennessee has issued a warning, and I feel like this is an important warning, not for us in our area, but for Tennessee, especially Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, those states. The police in the Loretta Police Department in Tennessee are investigating a couple of houses. They did a meth raid on Saturday afternoon. And while they were raiding certain houses, some of the occupants in the houses were flushing their methamphetamine down the toilets. It has been advised against the health department in the Loretta City of Tennessee. Do not dispose or flush the methamphetamine, because if you flush it down there, it could be ingested into the waterfowl, certain fish, and the gators. And we don't need no meth gators here, was the direct quote.
Yes, we do.
We don't need no meth gators here.
Hell yeah, we do. I want to be a Meth Gator.
Yeah,
If I think enough of it, I think I'll think that I am.
that's my spirit animal.
Fucking
I
Meth
know.
Gator.
I think that's. I find that stupid, by the way.
I think it's an interesting
Why is that?
story.
So why I find it stupid is because you're issuing a warning to people who are consuming the meth themselves. They don't care about their own well-being. Why do you assume they're going to care about the environment's well-being?
Well, and the police did the police in North Carolina did issue and Tennessee issue a statement. If you are concerned about meth gators and meth ducks and meth catfish, please take your drugs to us at the police station.
Yeah, and no one's going to. And also, they know they're just going to get arrested.
Meth gators.
Like, that's the oldest trick in the book, is have the druggies or whatever come to you.
Right.
Like, hey, I just want to dispose of this. And what is that? Heroin? And you're in possession of it, correct? Oh, well, yeah. Oh, okay, we got
I
you.
was holding it for my friend.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
I fell for that one time. But it was with pornography.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was some Epstein CDs you had.
No, yeah, the DVDs that I had to burn.
Yeah. So, okay, this weekend, one of Trump's policies, he said, well, one of the policies that he tweeted, not that he ever put into place, but was that ICE was going to get over 1 million people to deport them, right?
Yeah.
We all remember that. So this weekend, the ICE raids started all across this country. You want to hear something funny? And I did discuss the Constitution and laws and how they apply and how they don't apply. Here's one way that I love how they apply and how they work. So, and to an extent, okay, understand, we had thousands of ICE agents on duty right now, going house to house, detaining quote-unquote illegal immigrants. It costs us a lot of money to do that.
But
okay?
That's okay. It's just money.
Whoever had the forethought to set up these raids had about the size of a brain of, I don't know, a squirrel. Because one of the first things law enforcement knows to do is if they're going to apprehend you, they need to have a warrant. A majority of the ICE raids were faulted by lack of warrant.
Oh, do you need a warrant for that?
That is why, yeah, and that's why we didn't hear much about the ICE raids, because they didn't collect very many people, and because they blumber fucked the hell out of it.
Nice.
I mean, you can always find just a great way in which this administration shoots itself in the foot.
Why wouldn't they?
And that's definitely
warrants?
one of them. I mean, oh my god. How stupid.
Yeah, not their brightest moment.
No. Also in the news, something that I just want to touch upon, and then, the last 10 minutes we can not discuss anti-Trump stuff, but in emails that were released and other information that was released, the only reason why Donald Trump pulled out of the Iran deal was to spite Obama. So
it was a good reason.
Yeah, so Trump's pride is putting us in the line of nuclear warfare. So, that's good.
Didn't we know this, though? As soon as he got into the office, he didn't say it, but he was doing stuff that was very blatant to just disrespect Obama, basically.
Didn't he pee some
and now we
hookers
actually
to pee in a
have
bed?
proof that that's the only reason he did it.
Yeah, but you know what's more annoying about it to me? Is that I know if we get, like, a Democrat in, he's gonna do the same thing with Trump. And that's not what I want. I don't want a country run off of little kids who just want to get back at each other. That's not what I want.
I agree.
I mean, listen, now, I'm not saying, like, if, they implement another idea to help schools be healthier, for instance, eating better. Okay, I
Yeah.
get that, but I still don't like the fact that it's out of spite. I mean, there could we'll say weed gets legalized in all the states. Okay, that's good, but I still don't want it to be out of spite. I don't want
No,
someone to
I
sit
mean,
there
I
and
want us to get back into an Iran deal, but I don't want it to be, well, now, I just want to do it because Trump got us out of it.
Because then it's just going to be the bare minimum. They're not going to put any thought into it.
No, and we will have things like the TPP and stuff like that they'll go back into, and Trump got us out of it, and it was good that he did. Yeah. You know, so, like, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, but it seems so petty. Like, oh, hey, I'm going to start a potential war with another country just because I don't like this one guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say, though, to get off of the anti-Trump, let's do something pro-Trump, yeah? This new kidney bill.
Baby penises are back in style?
Yeah, I hope so, finally. Yeah, the new kidney bill that he passed.
And I support that 100%.
I do too. I was actually, and I was more surprised that it came from CNN. That's what surprised me. I was like, they're actually sharing something pro-Trump.
I think it's interesting, like on my own personal Facebook page, if whenever I share anything pro-Trump, I get no attention on it at all. Like, but whenever I share anything anti-Trump or anything like that, all his little supporters come out in droves.
I know.
And it's like, I don't know, for me...
You'd have that many people saying, yeah, see, go Trump. See, he's doing all these things. Which is the thing. Every fucking argument I've ever been in, well, Trump's done more for this country than any other president. He's doing a lot for us. So then why don't I hear you congratulating him when he does something, actually?
And I think I'll tell you why. Because a majority of these people, they're on rage porn. That's their thing. That's what gives them the serotonin they need, is to be angry.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I even to an extent notice, like, I mean, I just post stories, and some of them I'm opinionated about, some of them I want to make, a point on, and sometimes it's just, that's what's in the news, so that's what I'm posting. I mean, I didn't not post that story about the kidney transplant bill that Trump signed in. No, I posted it just the same as anything else.
Yeah.
But these people, they're so addicted to rage and so addicted to anger. And I think it would be bad for them if everyone did just agree with them.
I know. You think so?
That would be the worst thing we could do for them.
Well, at first they would say, yeah, see, we're finally getting it through the snowflakes' heads, but I give you a month. And they're going to be like, nah, hang on, wait. I need the snowflakes back. Let us know.
I need to yell and be angry. Why? I can't do that.
You know, I think it would be awesome
beating their families.
If, like, the next president was like, I didn't like Trump and I didn't support a lot of his policies, but let's close all the borders. Let's get rid of some of these immigrants and, like, start deporting a lot of Asians.
How many have such a confused boner?
Would be like, I want to be mad, but be like, why not? And and just continue on with what Trump was doing it. But like from a Democrat's point of view, I bet they'd be pissed.
Well, no, I think you'd have the outside of it. But I'm a Tea Party. I'm right wing, and you know what? We need more immigrants in this country. we need open borders. We need health care for all. Just so that they could get someone to argue with.
Right.
So, interesting, another thing that happened this weekend that I thought was pretty cool, and Cody, you probably have more to say about it than Tanya does, but did any of you guys see Pat Mahomes throw the football out of Chiefs Stadium?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah. That was interesting.
How in God's name?
That's the word you choose for
how
it?
the fuck
It was
did he
fucking
do it?
phenomenal. I've never seen anything like that.
Were you
imagine taking a punch from this guy?
Yeah. Like, I really want him to spank me.
Well, and another thing, I don't know how well you guys watched it, how many times you watched it, but he takes about a 3-step drop.
Yeah, but that's pretty typical for like in pocket scenarios.
But my thing with that is there's also another video this weekend that came out of Odell Beckham Jr. throwing the length of a football field, and people are like, "Oh my god, what amazing arm strength!" But like he did it like Adam Sandler style in Happy Gilmore. Like he took like a sprinting run and then chucked his entire body into it. Right. It's still impressive as hell for a wide receiver to do that. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever tried to throw a football like 20 or 30 yards? You quickly realize how far that is.
Yeah, it's rough.
But yeah, he did it with but Mahomes threw out of a stadium with like a 3-step drop. Barely put like that much of his body into it.
He basically just hiked it and stepped back. Because they really take about 1.5, I'd say, maybe 2, if you're Phillip Rivers. but yeah,
if you're Russell Wilson, you take about 17.
Yeah, and then you just launch it, and it somehow lands in their hands. But no, just the fact that he basically just did an in-pocket drop. Like, he just dropped back like he's in the pocket and just launched it. What?
200? What was it? 286 feet?
I think so.
Yeah, something like that.
That's not even like humanly possible. I mean, it is apparently. I mean, but and like, Tanya, have you been into Arrowhead Stadium or a football stadium?
Yes, I've been to Arrowhead.
It's huge,
massive. Yeah, I can't believe that it was a thing, and it was absolutely insane. I watched it several times. He was on because Mahomes was on Jimmy Kimmel this weekend, and it was
was he?
Yes, it was completely insane. One of our fans and people that follow us, David Leach, he's a singer in the band Machine Head. He's the one that got the champ stamp, which is Patrick Mahomes' image throwing a football on the small of his back. And he actually drove to Hollywood to the Jimmy Kimmel Studio Center to meet Mahomes, and Mahomes actually signed it, and it is now a thing, the champ stamp. I'm hoping I'm not even kidding.
Wait,
I'm hoping David Leach comes on our show to talk about his champ stamp.
There's a lot going on in that story.
I know.
It really is.
There's a lot going on.
A little bit more.
But Mahomes did talk
Somehow we
about
got
it.
Facebook to a follower to Machine Head to getting a tramp stamp.
No, Mahomes was on Jimmy Kimmel talking about it.
I know, right? That's what she was talking, and then she said that, and I was like, wait, hang on, go back to that.
They do.
Yeah,
but no, David Leach was talking about, that he got to meet Patrick Mahomes at Jimmy Kimmel's studio, and they did do a part of the video of him throwing it out of the stadium, and he was like, well, I mean, it's what you got to do. You got to be a thrower, and all I could think of was, that's a big fucking stadium. I don't get how...
Can we for a second go back on how the guys who wrote Halo are a fan of us?
Oh!
Are you...
Oh, it's such a good song.
Oh, it is. I love that song. Really? Yeah. They follow us?
David Leach is my friend.
Oh,
what?
Shit.
What? Oh, I'm gonna go at him.
Well, hey, David, if you're listening, you need to call in. You're a musician I'd actually want to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, although he is messing with my side piece, that's okay. I can share him for a while. Well, I mean, I wifed Russell Wilson, but Mahomes is my side piece.
Absolutely.
Did you really?
I don't really have a main piece right now. Like, as a Broncos fan, I'm just... So I guess Mahomes and Wilson.
The Broncos are, like, a very exciting team this year.
But are they?
Yes, but I'm not going to get my hopes up.
I mean, Noah Fant is probably the next Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, as per, like, best tight end in the NFL. I mean, like, Kelsey Travis Kelce level of talent. Drew Lock is a really solid quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, they're actually a very excited team to watch right now. I'm surprised you're down on your boys.
I don't know. I'm just not willing to get my hopes up yet.
See, if anyone should be down on their team, it's me.
Yeah, for real.
And so, also in sports news, before we go, was it just me, or were you guys completely taken out by the fact that Russell Westbrook got traded to the Rockets for like nothing?
Yeah, he got fucked in that deal.
Well, he didn't.
What? Yeah.
How did he get fucked? I mean, the Rockets are still paying him the same money Oklahoma is.
Yeah.
And now he gets to work with James Harden and like this team, but like the Oklahoma Thunder got like nothing. Like it was, hey, we'll get Chris Paul and some trades and some drafts. So you're saying the Thunder's dead for a couple decades? Is that what? Like, how do you give up someone like Westbrook, who was MVP, for nothing?
Yeah, I have no idea.
No, that's the reason I hate the NBA, though.
That reason right there.
Well, like, you remember the whole love of Kawhi Leonard in Toronto? Like, he just won the finals, and it was a huge thing, and oh my god. The following week, it's like, where's Kawhi Leonard going to go play?
I know.
Like, football does move guys around, but not at that breakneck of a pace. It's, I would never buy an NBA jersey.
I mean, you're right. It's insane how they do stuff like that. I don't know. It keeps the game interesting. You ever,
like, if your son was like, oh, I'm a big, I don't know, Utah Jazz fan, would you ever buy the jersey from the top Utah Jazz guy?
No.
Knowing that, like, next season he's going to be somewhere else.
I'm going to buy the guy that's on the bench.
yeah. The guy that's going to be cut soon.
For the water boy? He's not picky. He's just happy to be there.
That's right.
He'll show up with Gatorade next year. We know it.
Right? He's loyal.
Yes. But yeah, no, that's the worst. That's the worst industry to get into, I think. Like, there's all that talk about LeBron James. He was giving the number 23 to what's his name? Cody, you love the guy.
Oh, Anthony. Are you talking about?
Yeah.
Unibrow.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's apparently a Laker now.
Yeah. Man,
Anthony
why can I not
Davis?
remember his name? Yeah, Anthony Davis.
Okay, it just didn't sound right. But yeah, anyway, so LeBron is going to give his number, the 23, to Anthony Davis. But Nike got a hold of LeBron and was like, no, you're not doing that. Because we made a whole bunch of LeBron 23 jerseys at the Lakers, but you guys sucked last year, so we didn't move very many jerseys. So now we have a surplus of LeBron jerseys. You got to wait till next year till you guys can change your numbers.
Oh, wow.
And if you were a fan, knowing that, you wouldn't buy the jersey this year.
No.
You're like, oh, good, I'll buy this jersey because next year, when they're on the same team, it's going to be outdated, and people can tell that I'm a cheap bastard that only buys a jersey once a decade.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
not cheap, but anyway.
I am.
No, I said that the jerseys aren't.
No.
No, they aren't.
Well, especially if you have to change them up every 6 to 8 months. It's not worth it.
No, I have very few clothing, like articles of clothing that's worth that much money.
No, I agree.
And then just to be like, yeah, this thing's just going to be pretty much trash next year. So.
Right. All right. Well.
Anyway, I guess it does it for us today.
I guess so. Cody's
Yeah, I
ready to
think so.
fucking leave.
What do we got? Who do we got Wednesday?
Wednesday
What's the plan
is
Wednesday?
Monica, a mad woman, coming in to share with us her wisdom and that attitude that she usually has. Next Monday, though, is Steve Alton, the Meghead man.
What happened Friday?
Yeah,
I forgot about Friday. Oh.
A hilarious Cliff Cash, which, by the way, we are planning to go see this weekend.
Yes, come hang out with us at the Looney Bin. Call and make sure that there's room and that you get your tickets reserved. They do sell out. Have some fun with us, drink some alcohol, and you can give Biggs a big hug.
I'll pay $10 to anybody who can outdrink me.
Wow. Are you planning to get tanked?
Are you gonna die?
No,
I mean,
saying I like a challenge every now and then.
I mean,
Wow.
usually you don't even drink that much, but
Yeah,
and
but
we'll
when
be at
money's on the line.
and we will be at the early show on Saturday because we are old and we don't like to stay out too late.
some of us can't pull old dayers all the time, so yeah, we can't miss our bedtime.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all have our hang-ups, but yeah, so that'll be great. Definitely see Cliff Cash because he is hilarious, and if you haven't heard of him, we will be talking to him Friday. Definitely check him out. The guy is really, really funny. He's a very progressive-minded individual as well, and he marries the two very well.
He keeps you guessing, that's for damn sure.
Right, and remember to check us out on YouTube. Revolution Radio channel is the best way to find us. They are actively trying to keep us buried as well as other independent groups. So you have to look for it. You have to put in that effort. We have to put on the effort of being consistent. We will, but keep us subscribed, like all that annoying shit that people tell you to do. But just remember to keep looking for us and finding our new shit that we release.
I agree.
I think that's all
Well.
we got. Yeah.
That was so weak. Like no one else had anything else they were popping in. Yeah, like usually you get a punchy. Yeah, and this is Cody. You can check me out on blah blah blah. You're just like,
Cody, we love you.
Oh,
Alright, well then.
Yeah. So. Alright, this is Cody. Check me out on Facebook at Cody Vogus. Twitter's Magnus Apex. Yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
On to the next.
Thanks a lot for listening, guys. We love you.